Welcome to MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy. MLS Cup is now set. Real Salt Lake moving on. We have the two number 2 seeds going at it on December 7th. Real Salt Lake at Sporting Park taking on Sporting KC. I'm here with Simon Borg and Clint Irwin. Clint Irwin, obviously the goalkeeper for the Colorado Rapids. You'd like to be there yourself. If not, you're here with me and Simon, so
he's got to
welcome.
hate that Real Salt Lake's in the final.
Yeah, I mean, they're our rival, but you know they deserve to be there over the two legs. They're the best team.
Yeah, Real Salt Lake advanced 5-2 on aggregate after a 1-0 victory in this game. And Simon, they never really looked uncomfortable in this series at all. No. After that opening goal that they gave up to Will Johnson, I mean, they turned it on and really never looked back.
And you thought that Portland Timbers were going to come right at them to start the game, but that was the slowest start as I've ever seen from the Timbers under Porter at Geldwen Field. You thought they would come guns blazing. It was a very mooted start for them. And then Real Salt Lake looked very comfortable in this one. Numbers back. They never gave Portland a clean shot. You could count on one hand maybe the number of looks that Portland got at goal. I can't remember a Raimondo save that comes to mind where he had to really exert himself. The whole team didn't have to exert themselves. They let the ball do the running when they had possession. They took advantage of the spaces that were open to them, and it was just a very professional performance by Real Salt Lake. And look, 5-2 is how it ended on aggregate. 4-0-2 is how Real Salt Lake just beat up on Portland this year, and those are a fair representation of the matchups between these two teams.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at it. You had the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the Western Conference going at it, but it looked like the number 2 seed was so much better than the number 1 seed in the end, Clint.
Exactly. I think the story of the whole year for Portland and Salt Lake, Portland hasn't been able to figure out how to beat Salt Lake. They've tried different things tactically. They've tried different personnel. They've played them home. They've played them away, but they still haven't found the answer this year.
All right, we're going to take a listen to Jason Kreis. After the game, spoke with our own Sam Yarrick. Let's take a listen to what Jason had to say as he looks forward now to taking on Sporting KC.
Congratulations, first of all. So you came in here tonight with a game plan. It's a hostile environment. How do you feel your team did?
They did well. I mean, obviously to win the game. So we, in the series, we won both games. We won at home, we won here. We're very deserving, I think, to make it to the final.
And I know your mind is set on just tonight's win, but thinking ahead, how do you think your squad matches up against Kansas City?
I think we do okay. I mean, obviously we haven't had a lot of success against them in the last 2 years. It's a very good team, again, in another very hostile environment. So we'll go there and give it our best.
Okay, and any updates on the health of Sabrio or Wingert for MLS Cup?
Well, we've been hopeful all along that they'll be healthy by that time. We think with another 2 weeks of work and rehabilitation that we're very, very hopeful they'll both be healthy.
All right, well, congratulations, and we'll see you at MLS Cup. Thank you.
All right, well, Jason Kreis hoping to get both Sabrio and Chris Wingert back for MLS Cup. That would be a huge boost against the Sporting Kansas City team. Let's take a look back at the goal in this game. One goal, Robbie Finley scored it. If you're Portland Timbers, I mean, this was basically a backbreaker. They were already down 2 goals coming into it, and just little tiny mistakes here, it seems, and now they're down 3 goals.
Yeah, the first goal in this second leg was always going to be important. Both sides said it going into the match, and the Real Salt Lake getting the lucky break here, bounce going to Findlay here, but both Findlay and Sandoval attacking that ball, and ball bounces towards Findlay. We argued before, though, Clint, does Donovan Ricketts have to do a better job to parry that ball and send it maybe further towards the sideline instead of right at Findlay?
I think he does. I mean, you look at it, he parries it right back to where he thinks his defenders are,
right,
hoping that they can make the clearance, but at the same time, maybe he can get a little bit wider out of the danger area where Harrington doesn't have to deal with it.
And there were two defenders there covering both forwards.
Right.
It went to Findlay.
Yeah, they have the numbers here to make the play, but for whatever reason, it looked like a miscommunication between Harrington and I believe it was either Danso or Ka.
Ka, yeah.
Ka, and
Yeah, Harrington kind of overrunning his man. I think he was caught between clearing the ball and bodying his man away so Donovan Ricketts could come get it. Couldn't do it in the end. That goal proved the only goal in the game, made it a 3-goal aggregate lead, and that's what Real Salt Lake was able to hold on to. Sam Yarrick out at the field spoke with Robbie Finley moments after the final whistle.
All right, this is your 6th postseason goal, career goal. Can you walk us through it?
It's just a lot of hard work, you know what I mean? In this game, Luis Gil took a shot, and I know Ricketts usually gives up a lot of rebounds, so I just made sure I followed it, and I was able to get on the end of it.
And do you think that sealed the deal for tonight's game for you guys?
No, we didn't think it was over. We knew they would still come out and they would be on our goal. So we had to stay focused and prepared for anything, and weather the storm if we had to. I think we did a great job.
Well, congratulations on the goal and the win. We'll see you at MLS Cup.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, guys, a lot going Real Salt Lake's way. When you look at it from the Portland side, though, they had a lot of things go against them here. And you look, we talked before the game that Piccione was the right guy to start up top. Turned out he couldn't make it through the whole first half. And then you had an injury to Rodney Wallace later in the half. Injuries really playing a factor here. Caleb Porter not really able to get much done with his lineup there and make differences in the second half.
They struggled enough to get any momentum going to start the game. Then you had the injuries and then the goal. And then really that sucked the life out of the Portland Timbers, you could tell. Piccione, he was off to actually a good start. I thought he was promising what he was offering the team. Then Urruti comes in. Frankly, we didn't even see anything from him all game. And then as well, Al Hassan didn't show anything in this game as well. And it didn't help that also Diego Valeri, as we mentioned, playing through an adductor situation.
Right.
We didn't see the best of him either. He had 2 looks, didn't get a clean shot on either of them. And where was the offensive spark going to come from for Portland today?
Valeri struggling here. You see the defense by Kyle Beckerman keeping him off the score sheet there. That was probably one of their best chances. Raimondo had 1 save in the first half. Portland had a couple of goals called back for fouls, but neither of which really debatable. Right, Clint?
Definitely not. I mean, the first one, as we see here, a little push by Wallace. Ref sees it. Definitely a foul, no doubt about it. The next one, as we see again, Wallace, just a little push on Lavelle Palmer. My issue, though, what's the standard of the refereeing here? You see little fouls get called, other ones go missing. The players don't really understand what's a foul in the box, especially offensively. You see the defenders, they're grabbing people. They got guys by their jerseys.
As a goalkeeper, don't you want the defenders to be able to grab people and stuff, though? I mean, look, when it comes down to it, because it's funny, we've talked about it on earlier shows when Real Salt Lake were the ones that got hurt by the Omar Gonzalez, Chris Schuler grab on Omar Gonzalez's wrist. This is another one goes in Real Salt Lake's favor, though. It's kind of a light foul, but look, in the end, it's 2 hands on the back of a guy who is about to jump up and head the ball. That's significant because he couldn't clear the ball. That's the only reason that Rodney Wallace was able to head the ball in. So you can't really argue with it. I mean, I think before he had seen it, Caleb Porter wasn't really happy with that call. But once you watch it, I'm not sure you can argue with that, right?
Agree. It's because the ball was going right to Wallace and Palmer, to them. And look, you see it all over the field. Whenever there's a guy pushing off to get to a header, it's always called.
All right, well, we want to look at one call that potentially, I don't want to say could have changed the game, but it certainly could have given a lifeline to the Portland Timbers. Lavelle Palmer picks up a yellow card very early in the game. I mean, that could have been a red card. Certainly.
Could have been red.
Yeah, that could have been a red card. Then later in the, early in the second half, it's Palmer again pulling down Nagbe on the break. If this were to be given a yellow card, that would have been his second yellow card, he would have been out. That's about 30 minutes that the Portland Timbers would have had up a man to try to climb back from that 3-goal deficit.
Definitely. I think you see on that foul, Nagbe is attacking the Salt Lake goal. While he's coming, it's a tactical foul, kinds that we see every time, every match, and the referees have to do a better job of stamping their authority there. Like you said, 30 minutes, you never know what could happen with Portland.
Yeah, I think the fact that there was no yellow given there, no second yellow to Palmer, that essentially ended the match, because then what Jason Kreis shrewdly did is, a couple minutes later, he took Palmer out of the game and put Abdoulaye Mansali in. But to me, that has to be a yellow card foul. And look, Real Salt Lake in that case were up 3 goals. So, I don't know that Portland, even in that situation, would have been able to come back. But still,
like I said, would have been a lifeline. Could have made it a little more interesting in the end.
Something to highlight, though, the referee did warn Palmer just minutes before that. There was a throw-in situation that Clint even pointed to. Warned him that was the final time, but still didn't give the yellow.
All right. Let me before we move on to looking at MLS Cup and the matchup between Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake, give me your final thoughts on the Portland Timbers. Look, this is the first year under Caleb Porter. You look at what they've done the 2 seasons before it, and you're looking at major upgrades here. So what are your thoughts on the 2013 Timbers team?
Well, the Timbers, Porter came in, transformed their whole club to go from outside the playoffs to winning the Western Conference, making it into the Western Conference Finals. That's a complete turnaround, and they've got to be praised, and they've got to be looking forward towards next year.
I agree, Clint. I think they have a basis here. They have the foundation plays. They have an identity, more importantly. And now I think they just need to fine-tune. The first place you need to look at is that center forward position, where, they had a bunch of guys in there, Valencia, Ryan Johnson, Urruti. So I think they need to find someone who's productive there, who fits their style. But I think they have all good pieces. And then Diego Valeri, once he's healthy and can stay healthy for a whole season, I think we talked about him as a potential MVP candidate. I think we could see even more out of him next year.
All right. We will stay tuned, obviously, for the Portland Timbers. I guess, encore performance from what they brought this year. Now, looking ahead to MLS Cup, Sporting Kansas City will be hosting it. It is December 7th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, Unimas, TSN2 in Canada, or RDS in Canada. Sporting Kansas City against Salt Lake. Very intriguing matchup here because they only played once this season, and when they did, it was during Gold Cup, so both teams were without several key players. Now, that game was dramatic. It was an exciting win by Sporting KC, 2-1 in stoppage time with a late, I believe it was Iko Para scoring the late goal. So, look, plenty to look forward to because we haven't really seen a lot from these two teams. What is your expectation when they play this game out in Sporting Park next week, or 2 weeks?
Very even matchup, first off, but I think Real Salt Lake, they're on such a good run of form. And to go to that field, Sporting Park, wide field, and they can play their possession game. And we saw Sporting Kansas City in that second half against Houston, comfortable sitting back when they have to, and then pick their moments. I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Salt Lake control the match, and Sporting Kansas City trying to be a little more cynical about the game, even though they're playing at home. But it's going to be fascinating. So based on form, I think Salt Lake should be the favorites. Based on the fact they're playing at home, Kansas City is probably going to go in as favorites.
I mean, we thought we were going to see that kind of game from Kansas City against Houston, and that game was open. I mean, obviously they had the early goal, but that was an open game. Clint, what's your expectation of what to expect from this matchup?
I think it's like Simon said. You have two distinct styles of play. Kansas City, physical, press, they're going to foul you. Salt Lake, they want to move the ball quick, find those little gaps in between the defense. And again, at home to Kansas City, you've got to think they have a little bit of advantage there, but Real Salt Lake, probably the hotter team.
But the big story is going to be Kansas City at home, chance to win MLS Cup after what has been a 3-year pursuit for this trophy. And then Real Salt Lake, Jason Kreis, in potentially what could be his final game at the helm of Real Salt Lake. They get to an MLS Cup now for the first time since '09. And this, what a way to go out should Kreis win this.
All right, I have to ask you this because we had Jason Kreis kind of mention it, and I know talking before the show, you guys disagreed on this a little. If Alvaro Saborio is back and he's healthy for MLS Cup, is he on the field as a starter for Jason Kreis? Clint?
For sure. He's on the field for sure. I mean, this is a guy with international quality, the best goal scorer in the league probably over the past 5 years. and probably the most dangerous player that Salt Lake has in their arsenal.
Your team, though, has played so well in this playoffs with Sandoval and Finley. You don't break up that pairing. I think they understand each other. They run off each other well. And I think Kansas City, because their fullbacks like to push up at times, I think their understanding could help create opportunities for Salt Lake. So I think bring Sabari off the bench, use it as an excuse that he hasn't gotten a lot of action, that maybe he's not in game shape. He's not been playing for a while now. So I think you can use that as an excuse to say Sandoval's our guy for this one, Sabarillo off the bench.
It will certainly be very intriguing. And look, if you're Jason Kreis and you are in a close game, you can bring Sabo off the bench in the 60th, 70th minute to be a game changer. Maybe that does help out. MLS Cup, don't forget, Saturday, December 7th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, Unimas, TSN2, and RDS. And don't forget, we will be bringing you a live 1-hour pregame show before that ESPN broadcast from the sidelines down in Kansas City. We'll have special guests. We'll have all the analysis. We'll take a look at the lineups as soon as they come out. It will be very exciting. We're looking forward to going to Kansas City and I guess bundling up because it is certainly going to be a cold one out there. A little bit reminiscent, I think, of the Toronto MLS Cup again with
Dallas,
Colorado and Dallas. Clint, a little before your time, but you get to wear the star in the jersey because of that one.
Hey, yeah, definitely.
All right, I want to thank Clint Irwin for joining us here on MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy. We are signing off for now. Again, we will see you in Kansas City in 2 weeks, Saturday, December 7th on MLSsoccer.com, 3 p.m. Eastern Time for our live pregame show, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for the MLS Cup Final on ESPN, Unimas, TSN2, and RDS. Thanks again for joining us.